All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's get this party started. Welcome back to the Gym Life Podcast. And I am still here. That's right. 2 short days ago, I announced my comeback, and I could not wait to get in front of this camera and start talking on this mic again and do another show with you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be way more frequent than I was before and, squeeze them in wherever I want to. You try to get on schedule with this stuff, and sometimes the schedule doesn't work out. You plan a Monday, and all of a sudden you're busy, and you plan a Tuesday, and you're busy. So you know what I say? Every single time I got a thought and I got time, I'm going to get a show recorded for you because I'm taking notes and I'm talking to everybody way ahead of time to try to stay as relevant as I possibly can with things that are going on in our community. And then, of course, just take a lot of notes when it comes to things that you guys might want to hear and see. And I put a question on Instagram the other day, just being, hey, give me some show ideas, questions, maybe interview ideas, things like that. And so far, the response has been overwhelming, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate all of you guys who reached out to me after I announced the comeback here of the show after a long layoff. Man, I tell you, it was heartwarming, very overwhelming, honestly. I mean, it just felt great to that you guys, support me the way you do. And we're happy to have me back, representing you to some degree in this gym media world. And I tell you, I again, that fueled my fire. I couldn't wait to get back in front of this camera and on this mic again and talk to all you guys. And you guys gave me a lot of great questions too, by the way. I have fielded more questions for that one post that I did, I think, in the last 3 months of the last show. And I'm glad to hear that because I'm more fired up about this show than before. And I've got a lot of fun things in store, and I want to give you much, much more. And in order to make that happen, you guys have to be interactive with me because I could go off in left field and talk about shit that doesn't even matter. But I'll do my best to try to stay up on all the good stuff that you guys want me to do for you. Some of the questions, of course, were Great Lakes questions. As many of you know, I'm from the Great Lakes area. One of the biggest shows that we have in the country, if not the world for that matter, is the Great Lakes Strongest Man. So a lot of you, makes sense, right? Local listeners kind of thing, reached out to me, asking me questions about that show. Because as many of you know, George Bullard is tight-lipped, and he likes to keep secrets. He's always keeping secrets. He even keeps secrets to me when I talk to him. Oh, I can't tell you that right now. Listen, I can make some educated guesses. I'm in the mind of George Bullard. I have been for a couple years now. I think he's afraid to talk to me sometimes because I'm basically reading his mind. So I get that information out of him whether he knows it or not. But I did have a chance to talk with George, so those questions came in at the nick of time because I've got some fresh thoughts on my mind about the show after he shared some good stuff with me that I'll get to here. I'll get to you guys here in a minute. Also had a question about weight over bar. Just in general, the question was, how do I like weight over bar? What are my thoughts on it? That was coming off that contest that was there down in the Battle of Asgard that I mentioned last week that I did for Jeremy Mulcher down at Raw Strength in Kalamazoo. But I think a lot of people want to know kind of everybody's thoughts on that. And because it's coming such a staple sort of event in strongman, it's been around forever in Highland Games, and more recently, it's been kind of a crowd favorite as well. I have a couple takes on that. I think you might all appreciate. And then another question I got that I'll field today, that's one that I can get to maybe just sort of touch on it because this is going to be developing and kind of revealing itself over the next week here with World's Strongest Man coming up. How do I think the Americans are going to do? And that's a good question because if you look at that American field this year, I believe there's 10 guys representing the United States. Well, 9 if we don't count Nick Camby, which we still count Nick Camby. I get it. He represents Italy, but if, for some reason Nick ever won a big show representing Italy, of course we're going to claim him. He's one of ours. So, I got some comments about that just to kind of touch on it because I think until the groups come out with with World's Strongest Man that are announced, it's kind of hard to really predict. You can. I've got some solid, I think, predictions where I think some of these guys might end up, but sometimes making it out of the group is the hardest part. And, some of these guys, if they made it out of group, boy, there's a real good chance that they can perform well in the final. As we know, certain events are better for others than others are for sure. So it's hard to say, but wait until the groups come out, and then we can probably get real deep with our predictions on how these groups are going to turn out and who we might see in that final. But we'll touch on that a little bit as well. Some great questions I got from all you guys. And I really appreciate that. I actually got some bodybuilding questions too. And I want to be clear. I want this show to represent everybody. I always have. And I know I always go right down this strongman lane with it because that's, my background in the strength sports that I was a part of for 20 plus years. But, there's a bodybuilding is close to my heart like it is all of you as well, because many of us started in the gym as bodybuilders. We were lifting weight to look good. I don't know how many of us really picked up a weight just to be strong. Of course, now I think maybe you can argue more now than there ever has been because these sports provide a platform for guys that like lifting heavy weight. But I think a lot of us when we were younger, especially underdeveloped younger, trying to pick up the girls and, look good and fill out the t-shirt kind of thing. We were really all about bodybuilding and trying to, get the physique we always wanted. We certainly, I'll date myself here, but for probably for a lot of us actually, we remember picking up the magazines long before social media. This stuff's only been around for, 12, 15 years, especially the access we have to all the great athletes out there. But prior to that, you were picking up Muscle and Fitness magazine or Muscular Development or Ironman magazine or Powerlifting USA or whatever magazine you may have been into at the time. Probably all of them, I'm guessing, because, you waited for one to come out and it was once a month. So you ended up buying everything you could find that was on lifting and you ended up kind of immersing yourself in it. So with that said, we all are bodybuilders to some degree. Certainly by default, the definition of bodybuilding, we're all doing that, whether we're strength athletes or not. So I think having that part of us is important to remember. And I think eventually we're all going to get back to it, believe it or not. There's an evolution to every strength athlete out there. And maybe it starts in high school as wanting to be a bodybuilder or build your body. Then we fall into this strength lane where we're just immersed in building strength and function and athleticism for our competitions, if it's strongman, powerlifting, CrossFit, or other. And as a result, we build this muscle in this body, but it's not our number one priority. And then later in life, as we get out of strongman maybe, or competitions in strength, maybe through injury or through life, or just, hey, maybe we're just done with it. We aren't leaving the gym, for God's sake. At least I hope not. I mean, geez. I mean, it becomes a part of who you are. I don't think any of us want to leave the gym. Sometimes life might force us in that direction, although I would say probably a lot of excuses. But sometimes there's things that happen in life that are bigger than life that is going to take us out of the gym for a while, if not forever. God forbid. None of us have to deal with that. But we all come back around to bodybuilding. Because at some point, even the strongest strongmen and the biggest competitors out there, or the best powerlifters, or guys and gals that have been immersed in those sports for a long time, at some point, more than likely, you're going to get back in the gym, and it's going to be more progressive resistance, training, linear type training that's going to just, maybe your focus then is just on growing the muscle, shaping the muscle, becoming in better shape, looking better naked, looking better on the beach, being more functional. So we all get back around to bodybuilding. That's a long way for me to say. That's why I really still want to focus, maybe not so much on, the athletes of bodybuilding. I mean, I'm not big into the sport. Now, I have a lot of friends, Kevin and Hamza and Todd, and these are some of my friends local, and you're probably all listening right now. I love bodybuilding in that respect. I love watching my friends compete. I love it. I love they get all the respect in the world from me because I know how difficult bodybuilding is. It's a difficult journey to become a legitimate competition bodybuilder. A lot of discipline involved, different kind of discipline than what we deal with in the strength community, but much the same. We hold ourselves accountable for sure. So I love the sport in that respect. It's just outside of that, I don't know how much of it I wanted to bring into the show, but I do think it's important to bring in pieces of it that are relevant to us all, and that's like nutrition and health and some training. Again, it doesn't all apply, but there are guys out there, and God, who did I see the other day in strongman? Young guy. Oh my gosh, and I love him too. I can't remember who was it. Talking about how he's implementing a lot of progressive resistance and bodybuilding style in his training to prep his muscles for the type of result he's looking for when it comes to strength training and strength competitions. And I know some of you gurus out there, you got a different way of saying it, but he's not wrong. I mean, he's not wrong. You're not getting into strength training by just immediately starting to train with heavy weight or to lift like just compound movements, you're prepping the body and the nervous system to essentially get or to accomplish your goals through weight training. But through strength training, you have to do all those other things. And we'll get people to break that down for us in much greater detail. But you guys get the gist of it. I'm not far off in the way I say it either. And I love to hear that from him. So that was just kind of reminded me, we all kind of start with bodybuilding and eventually we get back to it. But even throughout our strength training, lives, we still touch on that a bit. If we're not just fans of it who appreciate it like I do, then we're still kind of involved in it. We still got our cues from it in the beginning, and we still do a lot of things that are very bodybuilding-esque or competitively friendly to that community. And I love it for that reason. Now, as far as like the whole competition thing and, the idea that guys are getting on stage and competing for the best physique and that sort of thing, as much as I can respect those guys, I don't understand it. I just don't. The judging's too subjective. I would much rather be judged on whether I lift the weight or don't lift the weight, or that sort of thing, than I would be how well I pose, hold my breath, maybe how lean I am, those type of things. And I get it. Some of it's pretty objective because we know how a lean guy would look compared to a guy that's not lean. But in large part, I think we can all agree we can line up 10 of the best bodybuilders in the world, put them on stage, and many of us, if we didn't know who these people were generally in their placing, would never have any idea where to even put them. So I got a better idea. Why don't you pick up a weight and we'll rate you, or we'll judge you, or you can win on whether or not you can pick it up and set it down. Anyhow, a little bit of a rant there, a ramble. I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but I think in large part just to remind you guys that our roots are all the same. We're all a part of the same family when it comes to our gym life. And like every family, every brother and sister, we go off in the world and we do something different. But every year we get back together for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, and we all sit at the same table. And maybe the Gym Life podcast can be that table to a lot of you guys. And I love the fact that I have my bodybuilding friends and other bodybuilders or former or guys and gals getting into bodybuilding that listen to this show, despite the leaning of strength that I put a lot of my content towards. Because I think ultimately, bodybuilders and CrossFitters and those type of athletes as well can really relate to the conversations, because perhaps maybe they're aspiring powerlifters or aspiring strongmen and women or CrossFitters or that type of thing. Certainly it's fun to watch. We can all agree to that, whether you're a competitive strongman or strong woman or a powerlifter. It's fun to watch. Strongman is much more fun to watch, let's be clear. Powerlifting is quite boring, actually. But yeah, I think we can all relate. That's what I'm getting at. We're all a part of the same family, the same lifting family. And ultimately, I want to see all of us take a part in each other's sport from near or far, because we have to support the gym life, right? Each other's gym lives. Whether we do it, agree with it, or other, we certainly can admire the tenacity of everybody and the grit that everybody has to, certainly the determination everybody has when they go into the gym and they want to be successful there. Nobody's there just to be there, except if you go to Planet Fitness. Then you're probably there just to be there, because that place, oh my gosh. Anyhow, all right, that was quite a ramble on nothing. There you go. That's a time filler. You guys driving out there, you want me just to talk about nothing? That was pretty much talking about nothing. But I like to set that tone, right, guys? I always get on here and I kind of set a tone, and that tone is, about the lifting community and how much I just love being a part of it. And I guess if anything, you guys get my energy from that, because I really, really do love being a part of it. I love being with all my friends in the lifting community, and I know we all do as well. I don't think any one of us are sitting at the other side of the cafeteria and only sitting at the powerlifting table or the strongman table or the bodybuilding table. I mean, we're all sitting at the same table. Oh, boy, God, I forgot what it means to ramble on like that. Thanks for listening, guys. How many are still with me? All right, coffee is always good when I'm podcasting. Keeps the windpipe lubricated, the vocal cords going. I like it. So I did get some questions about the Great Lakes. The questions were all over the board. So I'm going to tell you what I know. Here's what I know. The Great Lakes Strongest Man is one of the greatest competitions in the world to start. Yeah, I know. You guys are like, okay, come on now, Joe. No, it's true. It is. It really is. It's one of the greatest competitions, strongman competitions in the world. And now it, of course, is part of a bigger CrossFit scene as well. So they're going to do just like we did last year. We have, of course, strongman. Right now, there's 130 or 40 competitors signed up for this, and we're still 5 months out. So the competitor pool, again, is going to be giant. We'll have close to 200 competitors like we do every year. A big novice class, which, of course, you guys know how much I love those novice classes. And the novice class, I think, is going to be all classes, men and women. So if you're new to the sport, you want to jump in the sport, go to the Great Lakes Strongest Man as your very first show, and you'll never look back. You're going to be, you're starting off on the right foot. Let's just put it that way. It's a great show, so get signed up for it. And certainly if you're an open athlete, men or woman, get to it. You should be putting this show on your list at some point now or in the near future. So check it out anyhow. And of course, ADL is going to be live streaming. We know that. There's going to be 2 live streams, one for strongman and one dedicated to CrossFit this year. So last year we tried to carry that over. It was one main live stream going from morning to night. It was, oh my God, it was 12 and a half hours worth of commentating. I had no business commentating the CrossFit, but thank God my co-commentator Panda was with me, who was a CrossFitter at the time, or becoming one, or a part of that community. She helped me through it. I was a guy that didn't know anything about it, and I got my biggest education ever asking Panda questions throughout that broadcast about CrossFitting. So that was great. But this year, there's a dedicated stream for just CrossFit and a dedicated stream just for strongman, which is going to be great for those of us that are going to be a part of that show. It means we're going to finish it in a more timely fashion. The strongman competition is kicking off at 9 a.m. this year, and the CrossFit is going to be going on simultaneous to that for the open competition. And there's going to be a pro competition, both men and women, 105 men, heavyweight women. It's an international competition, and that's going to go on starting towards the last event of the open class. Or the amateur show. So everything should finish roughly around 3:00. And I think that's kind of what George has got in his mind, get things done a little quicker so we can move on to, the rest of our day and enjoy it up there in Traverse City. This is what I can tell you about the apparatus. There's always something new. There's a new something to every single show that he does. This year it's the deadlift tower. Matt Little, and everybody knows Matt from the Great Lakes area, competitor himself, quite a farmer, I'll have you know, a huge farm out in the thumb. He also is a fab guy, as every good farmer is. This guy could build shit. And he's building this deadlift tower, very similar to what you've seen probably on World's Strongest Man. More recently, I remember a deadlift tower from Australia's Strongest last year. It was more of a Ukrainian style. This one's going to be a deadlift, I believe, not a Ukrainian style deadlift. But in any case, it's going to be ominous. It's going to be on the field, and it's going to be a part of this event, as are the Fingered Fingers, which if you saw last year during the live stream, Big Laz came on board as a remote commentary, which was so much fun interacting with him. Just having him part of the show, right? You get Big Laz a part of any show, you've made it, baby. That's what I'm talking about. George and the Great Lakes Strongest Man with ADL Live and then adding Big Laz to it. Yeah, okay. We can all agree that's one of the bigger shows in the world by default. But yeah, so he came on board. He commentated the Fingered Fingers, which was that apparatus was awesome. It was well built, super cool, and quite a visual right at home plate there in the stadium at Turtle Creek Stadium. If I didn't mention, that's where it's at again. It's at Turtle Creek Stadium, which is a professional ball field in the ball field. So the seating, of course, as you can imagine, is absolutely perfect. Every angle is perfect to view this entire production from CrossFit, the pro, and the amateur strongman alike. So we got the Fingered Fingers back. We've got I don't want to call it death tower. It probably would be for some guys, but it's going to be a deadlift tower. And then, of course, the medley is going to have another press event. And so anyhow, get on Iron Podium. You can check out all those events. So that's going to be new this year, the deadlift tower. Also being new, and I got little insight from George because he likes to, like I said, he likes to hold shit back. He's building a stage. He came across a good deal on a legitimate truss stage. I mean, the kind you see in concerts. It's reinforced. It's going to have some lighting involved in it. Certainly be able to add a little more pageantry to the show. He's going to put that in the middle of, sounds like the middle of the infield. It's going to be a 20 by 40 foot, 20 by 30 foot stage. So there's going to be some good size to it, which opens up the opportunity to do just about anything he wants. He didn't tell me exactly what he was going to do with it. He says, I'll announce that at another time. I still think he's debating on what to do with it, to be honest with you, because there's a lot you can do with it. I imagine it's going to be used largely for the pro show, probably that final event or final couple events, or maybe even quite possibly some type of something to do with maybe the final event in the amateur show as well, which would be really fun to watch. That'll be kind of its own sort of, create its own backdrop there inside the stadium. So it's going to be really fun to see that. It sounds like the sponsors on board for this, once again, blow your mind. And I don't mean just every small local sponsor, which we appreciate all of them as well. They've got First Form this year. They have, I don't know if Axe and Sledge is coming back. Probably not, right, George? You're like, why are you talking about Axe and Sledge? I wrote it down. First Form and Apex Nutrition, which is a huge nutrition company, as we know. First Form is huge. They're not just representing with, here's some handouts to the, to the athletes. They bring everything. First Form brought this military vehicle that was all decked out last year. It was amazing. There was thoughts about doing something with that truck this year. Remains to be seen. But First Form is going to represent there in a big way on the concourse, along with 30 or 40 by the time he gets it all said and done, advertisers and sponsors that are going to be a part of this event. So if you can imagine, you're walking through Turtle Creek Stadium as you would if you were watching any baseball game, and up through the concourse where you can buy your beer and your food, which is available, by the way. There's also going to be vendor booths lining this concourse like in years past, particularly last year, the biggest year. And we're going to see a little bit more than that up there now again as well, with these bigger sponsors that are still a part of the show. And from what I understand, even a bigger part of this show. Other things about this event. Well, I'll tell you, one other thing that we're going to do is I talked to George about the Gym Life podcast becoming more involved, something that I've been wanting to do for years, haven't had the resources to do it. And this year we're going to do, I'll kind of give you the nuts and bolts of it. We're going to work out the details, but I basically said, George, can I talk about it? Can we make this happen? George says, absolutely, we'll make it happen. Hell or high water, we have a couple options to make it happen, and we're going to make it happen. We are going to do a Gym Life After Dark, or maybe we won't call it that. Yeah, maybe it will be Gym Life After Dark at the Great Lakes Strongest Man House, something along those lines. So we're going to have a big Airbnb up there that's probably going to have, enough room for 10, 12, 14, 16 people, that kind of thing. Obviously, it's going to have all the bells and whistles, barbecue, bonfire pit, entertaining area. It'd be like kind of like you see like on Tough Enough or some of these other shows you've seen on MTV in the past, or some of these reality TV shows where you have all these people living in the same house. Well, for 2 nights, we will have that. We will have it. Our guest list will be VIP. You can imagine if you look at some of the contestants that are coming for the pro shows, who's going to be there, and then also some of our judges and other people that George is working on to be a part of this, the pageantry of this event. So use your imagination. The invite list isn't out yet, but I can assure you whoever we invite is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this house up like a reality show, and we're going to do a Friday night pre-event dinner, which probably be pretty generic, as you guys know. Real no drinks involved. I'm sure a lot of these guys, maybe the judges will have a couple, but we're going to have a fun time interviewing these athletes, interviewing these personalities of the sport at this house in a real casual environment. We're not going to be talking about lifting and programming and diet and all that stuff. We're going to be talking about real life stuff, having some fun with them, asking them some tough questions, maybe some personal questions that you guys bring into the show that we can ask them on your behalf. And we're going to have some fun with them. We're going to have some cameras going. We're going to get some of this footage, at least as much of it as we can release. And then the second night, we're going to do an after party, which is going to be a part of that event, the Gym Life After Dark, where we're going to do an after party. It's going to be a barbecue. Of course, maybe we'll have some drinks there as well, loosen things up a little bit. Maybe we'll get Luke Davies to do a keg stand for us, make him a real American while he's here, and have some fun with that. So we're going to bring you guys this Gym Life After Dark house, or it doesn't sound right, Gym Life After Dark at the Great Lakes Strongest Man. co-sponsored by Gym Life Podcast and Great Lakes Strongest Man. And we're going to get a little bit more interaction with all the big personalities we're going to have up there. So get ready for that. That's going to be a fun layer to this event, the Great Lakes Strongest Man, on September 14th up there in Traverse City. And so, yeah, all kinds of other fun stuff, but I couldn't wait to make that announcement. I actually told Panda yesterday, I'm like, listen, I've got this thing I'm working on. I'm going to run it by George. If he agrees with it, I'll let you know as soon as possible. Panda, I'm letting you know right now. This is what we're doing up there. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And again, we got to get you up there because you got to be my co-host. Help me out with this big event, Gym Life After Dark, and we'll have some fun with it. So. But in any case, that's what we got going on so far up at the Great Lakes. Obviously, there's a lot of other details that are going to be being worked out with this show. It's going to be nothing short of amazing like it is every single year. I understand Don from ADL Live is bringing – it sounds like he's bringing his Arnold truck. In other words, everything he's got, every bit of a piece of equipment, technical and other, that he's got, he's bringing to the show. It's going to be as big as the Arnold production was for him. And I can tell you, I was there firsthand. That's going to be everything. That means we're going to see every angle of this show, every athlete of this show, both CrossFit, Strongman Amateur, and Strongman Pro alike, presented by ADL Live. I can't think of a better way to get it to you guys. And then, of course, I'm going to be commentating. I know that. I'm not sure who my co-commentator is yet. However, wink, wink, I think we know who it probably will be, but I got to wait till that announcement is formal, and I'll let you guys know. So I'll be doing the Strongman, of course, not the CrossFit, thank God. They've got a couple CrossFit pros that are coming for that. I'll find out more information about that CrossFit as well, as you guys are kind of waiting to hear more information come in on the show over the next, what do we got, April? It's probably May, June, July, August, September. It's literally 5 months from now. It seems like it's like tomorrow because it really is moving quick, and it will be here pretty fast. But let's not make it through summer that quick. We got a ton of other shows to be a part of, but I'll keep giving you updates on the Great Lakes Strongest Man as they unfold in front of me. All right, another drink of water. I think I hold my breath during every time I talk, guys. I lose myself halfway through. It's like I'm like, what, did anybody even listening to me out there? Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Clear my throat. So yeah, Great Lakes Strongest Man. I got a bunch of questions on that. I'm going to keep fielding questions on that, and I'll answer them as I go along. So I did get another question. That was the let's go on to the World's Strongest Man. So we have 10 Americans. We have actually 9 official people representing America. Nick Camby is 10. He's representing Italy, but we know he's an American because that's the way we know him. So despite the fact, if you wanted that show or another show, Nick, we're not letting you off the hook. You will be an American as far as we're concerned. However, we appreciate your Italian-American heritage, and that's why he's competing for Italy in the World's Strongest Man. So we got Trey Mitchell, Bobby Thompson, Tom Evans, Evan Singleton, Nick Camby, Rob Kearney, Spencer Remick, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Gultry, and Kevin Ferris again, who's been back a few times. They are our American representatives, and it's going to be interesting. Listen, my first take on this show, and like I said, not to get too deep into it, is that it's pretty wide open. Some guys missing from this show. However, the 2 biggest names, the standout names that we're used to seeing on top of that podium are there. That's Mitch Hooper and Tom Soltman. I expect them to be 1 and 2, and I expect Mitch Hooper to win this show again. I honestly don't see it any other way. I know Tom is a formidable opponent, but Mitch is just that guy. I think we can all agree. I mean, he's just in his stride right now, and I got to back Mitch Hooper. So I'm going to start the podium with Mitch Hooper and Tom second, and then everything opens up. And I mean everything opens up. Who I think probably will be there, I think making the finals, that's the first thing we should say. Who's getting out of the group? Well, I don't know what the groups are. I don't. And I don't think we have a really fair assessment of who's going to make it out of the groups until we see who those groups are and who's in those groups, and how that works out as far as a points thing, who can steal points and who can get kind of jockey themselves around to get a first or second coming out of a group to get to World's Strongest Man. And for many of you out there, if you don't know, there's 5 groups, and those 5 groups are, I think, 6 guys. There's 30 guys in the competition this year. So they're going to do 5 groups. They'll have 30 guys, 6 guys per group, and then the top 2, 1 and 2, respectively, in each group will make it to the final. That's the top 10 for World's Strongest Man. That is no easy task. There's a lot of guys that have been in those groups for a long time and haven't made it, that are big, giant men and super strong. However, again, it's a points thing, and on any given Saturday, guys can kind of jockey themselves around. That's why even like a guy like Nick Camby, a lot of you out there that I've spoke with and had a chance to talk with a little bit, and some of the things I've seen, we don't, what are his chances of making it to the finals? Listen, don't count him out until you get to see the group he's in. I'm not counting him out. We know he's a phenomenal presser. And I think the Viking press is a part of for those first events. He can easily win that event, if not steal some points. And as well as I do, it only takes one mistake, God forbid, one little injury, to change those rankings or standings around in those groups, to have guys that you generally wouldn't, maybe give a chance to make it, an opportunity to make it when it comes down to those last couple events and groups. So we'll wait to see how those groups unfold. However, there's a couple guys I'm more than certain we're going to see come out of these groups. So maybe if you're a guy like Nick Camby or Marcus Crowder or maybe Nathan Goltry, some of these new guys to the WSM scene, you're probably not hoping these guys are in your group. That would be Trey Mitchell and Evan Singleton in particular. Bobby Thompson for sure. I think he's one of those guys this year that could get out of a group pretty easily, considering maybe this particular WSM is opening up an opportunity for a lot of new guys to make it into that final. But Trey Mitchell and Evan Singleton are my guarantees to make it. I know, right? I don't need a crystal ball to figure that out. So those 2 guys in particular, and I think either one of those guys could bust that podium up. I really do. Again, to nobody's surprise out there, I'm not picking some dark horse here to win this thing. But who my sleeper is, and I really think this is a sleeper to win the whole show, is Trey Mitchell. I know Trey's coming off an injury a while back. He's well recovered. Chad Coy has been coaching him. I think, Chad, you're still coaching him. And anybody Chad Coy coaches, yeah, I will put a few bucks on that horse to win. Trey Mitchell is very capable, and he's looking fantastic, by the way. If you haven't saw him, it looks like he's more athletic than he's ever been. And I think this show has been the one circled on his calendar for quite some time now, coming through that injury, being trained by Chad and getting ready for this show. I think we might see some big fireworks from Trey this year. I love Evan Singleton, of course, as well. If he could maybe stay away from injury, or I know he had some allergic reaction before, and boy, a lot of crazy shit happens to Evan at these bigger shows. But he's a guy, certainly watching his training, if he stays healthy through this thing, he's going to make it to the final. I guarantee that. If he does, he can be a guy that can shake it up as well. They could definitely give Tom and Mitch a run for their money. Again, I love Bobby. Nick, well, that remains to be seen again, according to group. Spencer Remick, another big guy coming out of OSG more recently. I love to see these new names, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Goltry, and of course, Kevin Ferris. I mean, Kevin's been, I think, 8 times at World's Strongest Man now, somewhere around there, 6 to 8 times. He's a guy that, of course, nobody can ever or will ever count him out. He's an athletic type guy. He's a strong guy, a guy that could certainly, in this year's group, again, sneak into that final. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of all I got for you now. I just think it's great that we have, this many Americans representing. I mean, in years past, I guess if you counted them, there's always generally more than any other country out there. But I guess I'm really excited about this because we're seeing a lot of new names. Spencer Remick, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Goltry, Nick Camby. And we're seeing some guys that are in their prime, like Trey Mitchell, Evan Singleton, Bobby Thompson. And then we're seeing some guys that we're not going to see again, sadly, like Rob Kearney, who's been there before, never made it out of group to the finals, but certainly has done some amazing things in the strongman community. And you want to talk about a guy that was a 105er that came up into the heavyweights. There's a perfect example. So don't count Nick Camby out. That's what I'm saying. He's a growing boy, just like Rob was when he first broke into the heavyweights. And he's done some amazing things. So this is his final World's Strongest Man. So good luck to Rob in the rest of his life and what he's doing. I am more than certain he's going to be a part of this strongman community for years to come in one form or another. But this is going to be his last World's Strongest Man. So, so there's a lot going on in this year's show. As we get closer to the show next week, we get the groups that come out. we'll have a maybe a little bit deeper dive into it. As many of you know, I really love these up and coming heavyweight open guys that we're seeing come through OSG and through the United States. I gave a lot of love to them last year before I took my break. I'm going to continue to give those guys love, and it's good to see that we've got a couple opportunities to get some of these guys moving along in that class through the World's Strongest Man this year. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of the way these groups are set up, but they are what they are, and we got to live with them, right? I think I'd rather see 30 guys compete and all go against one another, top 10 out of 30. That would be more legit to me as far as getting guys to the final. Instead of having these groups where you got your one or two favorites in every group and everybody's kind of competing against them, I'd much rather see it all as a whole class of 30 competing, for that top 10 mark as a whole, as opposed to five separate groups of 6. But it's going to be fun regardless. I think this year in particular, once we break down that show a little bit more next week, this might be the most interesting World's Strongest Man that I can think of in recent years. And I get it. We're missing the names that we kind of grew up with, but that's okay. I think we're ready to see this new group of guys come up and, cause some waves and represent, us in the world. And certainly from the United States perspective, we have a lot of opportunity to get there. So that's going to be fun to watch. And certainly there's other competitors from all around the world that are relatively new to the scene. Rag from New Zealand is one that I think of off the top of my head because I had a chance to watch him compete last year, not just there, but at other competitions on ADL Live or on live stream, that is. So I'm interested in seeing, some of these guys that have been there for 2 or 3 years as well, and what kind of moves they're going to make into the upper rankings of this, or this final, I should say, of WSM, and how far they're going to push it. Luke Stoltman's another one. He's coming off of another big year. He's been around there a long time. This might be a perfect opportunity for him as well to maybe podium with his brother. How cool would that be? Luke and Tom podium with probably Mitch. I'll go back to that. So yeah, super interesting. I'm glad we're right kind of there. We're a week out, and I'll bring some of this stuff back to you guys as it unfolds a little bit. I'm not the expert in the world scene as much as I am just overall when it comes to having my eyes on a lot more of the different classes that are out there and different pro classes that are out there. I think we all kind of have our personal favorites when it comes to this WSM group, but I think we can all say it's a pretty interesting class this year. I can't wait to see it. So anyhow, remember remember to get on Instagram and all that good stuff, because you'll get the scoop on it much quicker than you will any other way. Okay. Yeah. So what else do we have going on? So I told you guys, I've got some other questions. I think I'll save them, but I did say that, we're going to be doing a fair amount of traveling around, this summer in particular. And I want to make it clear, because I had some promoters reach out to me, about wanting to get me to their shows already, and we'll wait till we make it official before I actually get there. And that happened really quick after that episode dropped the other day. So I'm grateful for that. I can't wait. There's so many opportunities out there. I'll get to as many as I can. I'm not limited to just one a month. I know a couple of them were like, hey, this show's happening, in the same month as Great Lakes. Could you, get out to do it? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not restricting myself. It just has to fit perfect with kids and all that stuff, because I can't take every weekend and do this. But just so you guys know out there, if I'm committed to a show, particularly in one of these upcoming months that I mentioned yesterday, there's no reason I couldn't make it work one way or the other if I had enough advance notice. So please let me know. I'll be more than happy to get out and try to be a part of these shows with you. As far as other things and other goings-ons out there outside of getting ready for Great Lakes, which is a few months away, and doing a couple of these shows, I'm going to try to put together kind of a podcast on the road thing. That's something I've always talked about doing. That's why I'm making an effort to try to combine the podcasting with the live streaming, because it's going to give me an opportunity to kind of, get more content that way, and also kind of get more reach that way. Because as many of you guys out there know, I'm trying to grow this podcast, try to break out down the barriers a little bit, not just with the athletes and who can see me on Instagram and Facebook, but try to get to these events and represent more visibly. So I've got some cool stuff that I'm getting made right now that I can be a part of these events with, and try to represent them as the official podcast of like the Great Lakes Strongest Man, of Battle on the Beach, of whoever else may have me out there, so that visibility can lead to some more viewership, which will lead to all of you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about this podcast out there, and maybe some way I could represent you in another way than just rambling on all day long talking about this kind of stuff. So in any case, I'm going to leave you there. Like I said, I'm doing a ton of podcasts now. I don't have to try to stretch them out any longer than I listen to myself and don't want to hear myself talk anymore. But if you guys could keep getting those questions in, those comments, topic ideas, and interview ideas, I'm going to make those happen for you. And I'm just going to pepper you with all this good stuff day in and day out if I can. And we'll keep this train rolling down the track. So stay tuned and please stay healthy.